People act like death is not supposed to happen. When the truth is, you start dying the day you're born. You're not born to get younger and younger. You're born to get older and older.
Hey guys, today we have a very special guest with us. She is Iyanla Vanzant. Iyanla was born in the back of a taxi in Brooklyn, New York. She went from being a welfare mother to becoming a New York Times best-selling author and producer of Iyanla Fix My Life on Oprah Winfrey Network. Her books have been translated into more than 23 languages, and she's best known for her inspirational speeches, her talk show, and her appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Iyanla is bringing her expertise and wisdom to a new podcast, The Odd Spot, where she helps listeners with relationship struggles. I'm so happy to welcome the soul surgeon and spiritual technician, Iyanla Vanzant, to the show. Thanks, Iyanla, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. How are you this morning, this evening, whatever time it is on your side of the world?
I'm doing awesome, spectacular, super.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
Thank you for
Good,
asking.
good,
I'm not asking you
good.
how you are because I know you're already awesome.
Okay.
So, Iyanla, before I ask you my questions, where can people connect with you?
Iyanla.com, Iyanla.com. Real simple.
Very simple. Thank you. Thank you so much. Iyanla, my first question is how to create honorable, honest, and authentic relationships.
Oh, well, that's a big question. It starts with your relationship with yourself. Every relationship that you have is going to mirror your relationship with yourself, how you think about yourself, how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. And unfortunately, we don't know that. We think that people come into our lives and they're good or bad or mean or wicked or whatever. And what they're really giving us is an opportunity, A, to see ourselves and an opportunity to heal the parts of ourselves that we don't always see. So it may be that you need to heal the part of you that's unforgiving, the part of you that's judgmental, the part of you that is selfish, the part of you that is controlling. And your partner, and not just your partner, all people are going to come into your life to help you see yourself and the parts of you that you need to heal.
Iyanla, then how to clean up and heal our relationship with ourselves?
Now, well, you got to know what that relationship is first. I don't think people sit around and think about, what is my relationship like with myself? How do I treat myself? How do I think about myself? People don't sit around and think about that because we are so externally referenced. We're looking out at the job, at the kids, at the partner, at the family, at the shopping, at the movie, whatever. We don't really understand that in order to have a really good relationship with yourself, you got to spend time with yourself. Now, maybe in India they do, but in America, it's a problem. You know why? All day, all night, at the dinner table. The only place I think people may not be on their phone is in church or in the temple. Other than that, on the phone all day long. You're not with yourself. You're always reaching out.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, how to set up clear boundaries with other people?
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back. Let's first talk about what is a boundary. So a boundary is a mental, an emotional, or a physical structure, if you will, that keeps you safe. Most people don't know the distinction between a boundary and a wall. Boundaries keep you safe within yourself. Walls keep people out. So sometimes we set up things to keep people out. Don't talk to me, don't look at me, don't touch me, don't whatever. Whereas a boundary is, I welcome you into my world, but while you're here, this is my request. This is my expectation of how you will behave. So you won't raise your voice at me. You won't put your feet on my coffee table. You won't, smoke in my kitchen or whatever, These are boundaries, things that keep you safe and honor what you value. And what happens very often is when people aren't clear about that, people come into their lives and either knowingly or unknowingly violate boundaries. We find the boundary violation, we find most often in birth families and, of course, in partnerships. Because your mother is not going to honor your boundaries unless you make it real clear to her. This is very important. So she can't come in your house and look under your bed to see what you got going on or whatever it is mothers do. When I go to my son's house, I go in the door, I sit on the couch. I don't ask any questions. I don't look because he has a wife. That's her house. So I can't go to my son's house and be the queen bee in my son's house. That's his wife's house. But mothers will come in and make demands and requirements. They violate boundaries. But if she doesn't know that the boundary exists, and then sometimes people know you have the boundary and they'll violate it anyway. That's when you have to have a consequence. So most often what happens is people have boundaries, requests, requirements. They get violated. There's no consequence. So they get violated again and again and again and again.
Yes, Ian. Thank you for explaining that. Iyanla, why do people self sabotage themselves if things come to them easily?
Mm, good question. I don't think they know. I don't think we know when we're sabotaging ourselves. We're responding to a fear or a past trauma or a past shock. We're responding to things that we make up in our own mind, and then we engage in behaviors or speaking that sabotage us. We don't intend to do it. The problem is that even when we sabotage ourselves, we blame other people. And then we never get it cleared up. We blame other people. They did it, he did it, why didn't they do it? And again, it goes back to your relationship with yourself. It goes back. Here's a classic one. I don't know how you do in India. I had a friend who wanted to buy a house. She wanted to buy a house after her marriage ended, and so she was saving money to buy a house. But every other week, she would go to the mall and spend money and then have to use the money she was saving for her house to pay the credit card bill. This kept going on, and she just kept, I'll never get my house. I don't understand. I'm saving. I'm working 2 jobs. Where's my money? I said, your money's in the mall.
Yes.
If you keep shopping, buying things for the new house, and spending the money you need for the down payment, you'll never have the house. I mean, to me, it looked real simple, but she never thought about it. So when we started talking about it, I said to her, is this really something that you want to do? Anyway, after many round and round conversations, she came to recognize that she was afraid to live by herself. Her marriage had ended. She felt like a failure, and she was really afraid or didn't want to live by herself. So it was easier to stay in the apartment with her sister complaining and spending money than it was to take that look within at herself and understand what she was doing. So she did get her house finally.
Thanks to you. Iyanla, how not to let past baggage influence our daily actions?
Oh, well, that's healing. You got to heal. The mind has what's called a negativity bias, meaning it will always vibrate to remember, recall the negativity. And in this very moment, we're always referencing what happened before. So until you do that healing of the past challenges, experiences, trauma, shock, The mind is always going to go looking for the negativity of the past. So, I mean, there's a variety of techniques: prayer, meditation, all sorts of spiritual technology. But until you heal the wounds of the past, you'll continue to bleed, those memories. So it really requires healing. And for me, the greatest healing tool is forgiveness. To really forgive what you think people did. Forgive yourself for believing that. For
Mm.
me, I learned that it really wasn't about forgiving other people. It was about me forgiving myself for what I was thinking. Not that it was wrong, but it wasn't helpful.
Mm.
Okay. Forgive myself for what I was believing as a result of what happened, believing it would happen again and then trying to avoid that. I had to forgive myself even for what I was feeling. Not that my feelings were wrong, not that my thoughts were wrong, not that my beliefs were wrong, but that by thinking it, feeling it, believing it, behaving in certain ways, it wasn't helpful to me. I didn't have anything to do with anybody else. My mother died when I was 2, and the people who raised me never bothered to tell me that my mother was dead. I didn't find out that the woman who raised me wasn't my mother until I was 30 years old. And, but somehow inside, I knew, I remembered her. Once I got the outside evidence, I remembered her.
Mm.
And I was really angry for a long time that she died. you know, how could you die and leave me? And I was really angry at the people who lied to me about her death. So rather than focusing on forgiving them, I had to focus on forgiving myself for forgetting my mother. I forgot her. I was 2. I'm not beating myself up. It wasn't bad. It wasn't wrong for forgetting my mother. I forgave myself for all the years I spent being rebellious against the woman who raised me, when she wasn't my mother. She didn't even have to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And here I am being just a horrible, horrible teenager. And instead of being grateful that this woman who didn't have to do it raised my brother and I. So the bottom line to how do we stop carrying the baggage? Look at what you're thinking. Look at what you're feeling. Look at what you're believing. Look at what you're doing. And ask yourself, is this helpful and productive or not? And if it's not helpful and productive, why am I doing it? What's motivating me? What am I feeling? What's going on? And again, your relationship with yourself.
Yes, Iyanla. Iyanla, what is the distinction between growth work and healing work?
Okay. All right. Good. That's a good question. And, a lot of people don't know the difference. So they do a lot of things and then don't understand why they don't move forward. Growth work is changing how you do what you do to have a different experience of it. So let's just say, for example, you meditate for 10 minutes and you've mastered that. Well, now let's go to 20.
Mm.
That's growth work.
Okay.
Expanding what you do or how you do it so that you can have a deeper experience. Um, Budgeting your money so you can save for a house.
Mhm.
That's growth work. Healing work is uprooting the traumas, the shocks, the mental, emotional, even spiritual disruptions in your life or discords in your life that are keeping you stuck in a repetitive pattern of thinking, feeling, and behavior. Healing is about eliminating, neutralizing, um, bringing something to an end so that you can move forward in a different way. Growth is simply about changing how you do what you do.
That's really awesome, Yana. Thank you for that. And now I think this question is also very apt here because I'm asking the differences. Can you explain the difference between a feedback and criticism?
Oh, all criticism is feedback. Feedback simply means a response that you're getting from your environment. That could be people, it could be a place, fe- information that's coming to you from people or environment about how you are being experienced, how you're showing up, or how people are experiencing you. Criticism makes how you show up or what you do wrong. So it's feedback, but it's given with a negative um, energy, a negative connotation. It makes you wrong for how you're showing up or who you are or how you do what you do. And it also doesn't offer support, recommendations, input, insight for change. Feedback usually gives you an opportunity for change. So if you're eating 20 cookies a day and your butt is spreading, the fact that you can't get in your pants is feedback. That's feedback. So you walking by your sister and she's saying, "Oh, your butt is so big." That's criticism. Okay. The cookies are trying to tell you put us down so you can continue to wear your pants or so your belly don't get whatever it is. You know what I mean? The
Yes.
feedback is I can't zip my pants anymore or my shirt doesn't fit. Your sister calling out your size across the dining room table, that's criticism.
Thank you for explaining elaborately. Thank yeah, some people read lots of spiritual books and do all the things that they read, and sometimes things don't work. What do you recommend for such people?
Well, your reading is a beta mind activity. It's intellectual. And in order for you to really make lasting change in your mind, in your life, in your body, you have to have the four levels. You have to do it physically, that's the reading. You have to do it mentally, so that means the application of it. But you also have to feel it. You also have to feel it. You've got to have the mind and the heart, the mental and the emotional, the masculine and the feminine integrated. So sometimes people do, but they never be. How do you be what you're reading? How do you be present to what you're doing? Reading it, thinking it, that's only one level. You've got to get the four levels because something that you can do intellectually that doesn't open your heart isn't going to bring you any benefits.
Yes, Iyanla, absolutely. Iyanla, how to know who we are?
Well, I don't know. When you find out, let me know. It goes back again to your relationship with yourself, spending time with yourself, paying attention. I have a friend here in the US. His name is Dr. Michael Beckwith. And maybe 30 years ago, I heard Michael say something that just became the foundation of my life. And that is our only purpose for being on the planet is to celebrate life, awaken to our God self, our divine self, and to do what brings us joy. That's the only reason we're here, to celebrate life. If you look, your life is always talking to you. How are you living? Are you struggling? What are you doing? That will tell you a lot about who you are and what you think and what you believe because you're always going to live what you believe. If you believe life is hard, if you believe you can't, or if you believe you can, if you believe that life is one big cocktail party, whatever it is, how you're living will tell you what you believe, and what you believe will tell you who you are. To celebrate life, to awaken to our divine self, to have a relationship with the divine. Who we are is manifestations, representations, unique expressions of the divine. But what is your concept of the divine? Is it male? Is it female? Is it harsh? Is it kind? Is it loving? What is it? What is your concept of the divine? And what is your relationship with the divine? And to do what brings you joy. How many people have the time, energy, courage, insight to do what brings them joy? How many people even know what brings them joy? Because we're working, we're raising kids, we're taking care of people, but what brings you joy? And it doesn't have to make you money, and you don't have to be rich to do it. What brings you joy? If you're sitting on a bench in the desert, what can you do to bring yourself joy? What can you think about? What can you remember that brings you joy? I think when we master those three things, how to celebrate life, how to identify and be in relationship with our divine self, and how to do what brings us joy, we discover who we are. Not your purpose, but who you are from the inside out.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, we all experience death and loss in life. How to best deal with death, grief, and loss?
Well, there's no formula. There's no formula, particularly when it comes to death. Your experience of death will be a function of what you believe about death. If you believe this is the end, it's over. I mean, not your death, but when you experience loss through death, parents, loved ones, close ones, people act like death is not supposed to happen. When the truth is, you start dying the day you're born. You're not born to get younger and younger. You're born to get older and older. you know? And people think death is the end or it's a bad thing. Living people will believe very often that death is bad or wrong when someone they love and care about dies because they don't have the person. They don't think about what is the benefit for the person who's dying. Where's their soul going? What's their I don't know anybody who's been dead and come back and talked about it. So it could be one big garden party over there. I don't know. you know. you know. So loss, death, um and death, I mean, loss or death, that could be the death of a marriage, the death of a person, the death of a career. People lose their homes to fire, flood. Look at what just happened recently in Turkey. There are many people who are alive, but the death of their life as they knew it. You know, I say the best way to do it is 1 minute at a time, treating yourself with kindness and compassion. When a death or a loss is fresh, you can't do a week at a time. You can't even do a day at a time. You got to do one moment at a time. Breathing. What do I have to do right now? Breathing. How am I feeling right now? Breathing. What's being asked of me? And be willing to say, no, I can't do that now. I don't know now. I you know, Death, loss, and grief are one of the few life experiences that force us to take care of ourselves in a different way. Even if it is you just get into bed and pull the covers up over your head. If that's what you need to do to take care of yourself, do that. Also, I think we have to make a distinction between mourning and grieving. When we have a loss and we mourn, that means that we have regrets. That means that we have fears. That means that we have um, a belief that because this person or this thing has ended, my life has been altered forever. And so we have many, we feel restricted and limited. That's mourning. I'll never love again, and I'll never have what I want again. I can't do this anymore. Mourning, and it's natural and normal, but we can't stay in mourning. We have to shift into grieving, which is a natural, organic process that comes with loss. And there are 7 stages to grieving, from denial, anger, argument, um, until you finally get to acceptance. If you stay stuck in mourning, you never get to accepting this is what's happened. And now you have a new normal. You have a new normal because of this loss or this death or this change. But you will survive. But when we get stuck in mourning, I'll never, I can't, this is it, whatever, that's when we suffer. And suffering is usually caused by what we think and what we believe. So, how to get through loss, mourning, death, grief, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one step at a time, whatever works for you. Because time heals it. It's just time.
Thank you so much, Iyanla. It's really, really helpful. My father also passed away recently, 5 months back. So
Yeah.
it's a really thank you for that. Iyanla, what's the importance of having daily spiritual practice?
Yeah. To keep yourself grounded and centered within yourself, to keep yourself connected and aware of something grander than yourself, the divine, whatever you call it, whatever that relationship is. And your daily spiritual practice focuses you inward rather than outward. Again, with the phone, we love doing everything outside. So, a daily spiritual practice is how you turn within, focus on yourself, ground yourself, center yourself, and grow yourself. It's what grows inner authority so that we're not always reaching out. We're not always worried about what's going on in the world. We get our authority from within.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, how to speak up for ourselves?
Loud. I tell people all the time, be loud and wrong. That's okay. Just be loud. Just speak. And very it's cultural. It really, really is cultural in many instances. So again, there's no formula. Um, in the US, we have a tendency to think that everybody has a right to say anything to anybody at any time. We are just so arrogant over here. Arrogant. Um, so, and also in this culture, there's some beliefs that certain people can't say certain things at any time. You can't, the big thing over here is if you want, talking about race is bad. You just, they just burn you at the stake. For a long time, women speaking out about certain things over here. I don't know the on the ground culture in your country, but learning how to ask for what you want, learning how to communicate your boundaries, having a strong no and being able to stand in your no and being able to speak up for what matters to you, what you value. Those are the areas. And again, it's very cultural. In some cultures, they don't care what you want. Nobody don't care what you want. This is what you got to do for the good of the whole or for the family or for tradition. And then in some countries, again, here we have the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. You can lie on people. You can say any most outrageous thing as long as it doesn't stop people from making money. If you say something that stops people from making money, then they're coming for you. But it's just crazy. So I say, again, there's no formula. But the better your relationship is with yourself, the easier you will find it to be able to speak to people about what you want, what you need, and who you are.
Iyanla, I would like to ask this question, even though it may be a little bit repetitive. Uh, People are afraid to say no. Even if they say no, they give an explanation. How
Yeah,
to
right.
stand for your no?
Don't explain it. No is the only word that I know of in the English language that doesn't need an explanation. I have two dogs. They don't speak English. They don't speak human at all. But when I say no, they stop immediately. They know no. Because at some point when they were little, there was a consequence to them violating the no. Don't eat that shoe. So when you eating the shoe, no, and I'm going to pop you on your nose. Or don't chew on the corner of the furniture. No. And then boop, they get the consequence. As human beings, very often when we say no and we think we're disappointing people, we will go into explanation because we feel guilty. And you'll talk yourself right out of your no. The thing people don't understand is if you don't have a strong no, you'll have a weak yes. Meaning you will say yes to things that really don't matter to you. Yes to things that you don't want to do. Yes to things that will dishonor you because you have a weak no. I say have a strong no and be willing to disappoint people or upset people. I don't know anybody that's ever died from disappointment. How did they die? Oh, they got disappointed to death. I don't know. you know. Oh, what caused their death? Oh, they were upset to death. No, let them be disappointed or upset. That's not your responsibility. And again, in many countries, it's cultural. I know for a long time in this country, a woman couldn't say no to a man's sexual advances. And then she'd go along with it and feel bad and destroy her life. Well, now they're calling people into account for that. For a long time, it was believed that even adult children couldn't say no to their parents. If your mother asked you something, your father, your grandmother, you couldn't say no. You had to put them first. So I think it's not only important to say no, but how you say no. No, no, I'm not going to be able to do that right now. No, that doesn't really work for me. I can't do that, but I can do this. Or no, just no.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, many people believe that they must respond to everything and anything that seems to be going on. How can we choose to duck? In other words, how to dodge underdeveloped consciousness kindly?
Mind your business. Just that simple. My grandson, my great grandson, he's 5. And when I take him out in the street, he what are they doing? Oh, that man is doing, look at that car. What is he doing? What are they doing over there? And I say to him, that doesn't have anything to do with you. Mind your business. That doesn't have anything to do with you. So we got to start getting clear about what relates to me and what doesn't. Even when people call me or come to me to bring me into somebody else's drama, I'm like, I don't have anything to do with that. I am not on that committee. That's what I say. I'm not on that committee. I'm sorry. And I'm not volunteering to be on that committee. That doesn't have anything to do with me. Why are you telling me that? What is it that you want me to do with this information? So, just mind your business. In Jamaica, there's a song called "Drink Water and Mind Your Business."
Nice
So
one.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drink water and mind my business. If it don't have nothing to do with me, don't even tell. I don't need to know that. That don't have anything to do with me. Nothing I can do about that. I'm not on that committee.
Thank you, Ian. Iyanla, why we don't serve for others? Like why we don't serve for others, but we serve for ourselves? Like I've seen a very important point from your videos that I like it. Many people think that we serve others, but in reality we serve ourselves.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Because everything that you give, you receive. You may not receive it from the place that you give it, but it's like you're making a deposit in the universal bank. So when you sow seeds of goodness, when you sow seeds of kindness, when you sow seeds of support or help, you're actually making a deposit in your account, and it will come back to you in miraculous ways. So service is a giving from the heart with no expectation of reward or recognition from the place that you're giving, because the universe will reward you. There's a universal law, the law of compensation. So all that you give will be returned somehow, some way. It really will be. It's interesting because growing up, my brother had asthma, chronic asthma. He would go into have asthma attacks where he couldn't breathe and he'd have to be rushed to the hospital. He'd be in the hospital for days. I mean, this went on from the time he was, I don't know, he's 2 years older than me, as long as I can remember, until he was well into adulthood. And I remember after an asthma attack, he'd have to spend days in the bed and we'd have to put the vaporizer in the room, and I was younger than him, but I would bring him his sandwich. I would sit and watch TV with him. I would tease him and pick at him and get in trouble for upsetting him. I would hide his toys, do all the things. But in many ways, by being there with him, I served him as he was going through this chronic health challenge, all the way into our teenage years. Um, and maybe it's been quite a while. I've had the blessing, I've never been sick a day in my life. Everything I was born with, I got my tonsils, I got my womb, my ovaries, my adenoids, I got everything. Fingers, toes. I'd never been sick a day in my life. And I realized one day, oh my God, in serving my brother in his illness, my reward has been good health. Maybe, maybe not, who knows, could be. But I do know, that's how it came up in my spirit, that when you give from a place of kindness, care, concern, compassion, it's coming back to you. Maybe you'll never have a car accident. Maybe you'll have a good job for 50 years. Maybe you'll never lose your hair or your teeth. I don't know. But what you give comes back. And that's why serving others. And serving others also opens our heart. Because so many people on the planet feel that they're not good enough. They're not smart enough. They're not pretty enough. They're not rich enough. They're not young enough. Whatever. They're not enough. But when you can give something to somebody, serve someone in a way that changes their life, it takes all of the not enoughness away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, what did you learn from Steve Hardison? At what point did you settle into being comfortable with Steve Hardison? How did that unfold for you?
Wow. I learned, I can't eat, I don't even know if they're words. I'll tell you one of the most important lessons that I learned from Steve Hardison, and not from anything he did or said or was, uh, just in being in interaction and relationship with him. One of the things that I learned, probably the most important thing that I learned, is that white men are safe. As a woman of color, coming from with the history of oppression, racism, I grew up in a time in this country when black people, brown people couldn't drink water, couldn't ride the bus. I was alive in those times. I was alive when Martin Luther King marched, the Civil Rights March on the Capitol in Washington, D.C. I was alive when I was one of the little colored children that got bused to the white school and got picked on and spit on and called names in this great country of America. This is not something I read in a history book. This is what I lived. And so even though I grew and matured and had many experiences in life, that little girl inside of me who was spit on and called names and threatened and chased home had a fear that white people in general, but white men specifically, are not safe. And I was able to live my life in a way that I had very little interaction with white men. You know, the mailman or the person in the bank. But I didn't have to have white people in my house or my neighborhood or around the corner or anything. So to be able to be in intimate personal relation, we were students together. We did our master's degree together. And Steve Hardison is not just a white man, he's a big white man.
Yes.
You know, he is a large, he's what, 6'2", 6'3", I don't
Six
know.
four.
You know, he's a big white man. And he's a big white man because Steve will tell you, I taught him a lot about black people and our experience. Not, I didn't make him wrong for being white. He didn't make me, he was ignorant. There were things he just didn't know. Because the same way I didn't have to have white people in my life, he didn't have to have black people in his. So I think our friendship and our camaraderie taught us each things. But for me to sit down and look in the face of a 6'4" white man, okay, and tell him what I thought, oh my God. It was probably the most frightening experience of my life, but it was also the most healing experience because I had never had that experience. You know, in the presence of white men, I was taught to shrink. And in the presence of Steve Hardison, he taught me to stand in my greatness. Yeah.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, what have you discovered about being in your own life?
I think what I've discovered about being is what I call presence, moment by moment. Being who I am, what I feel, what I think, moment by moment, as opposed to referencing the past or rushing to the future. Let me be here right now. Let me be with you right now. Um, and the other thing that I discovered about being is that that's my power. Doing is not my power. Knowing is not my power. Wanting, trying, hoping, wishing, dreaming, that's not my power. Being in this moment, all that I know to be true about myself in this moment. Now, the next moment I could forget, but I'm not in the next moment. I'm right here, right now. Being. Um, yeah, I think that that's the greatest lesson that I've learned.
Thank you, Iyanla. Iyanla, how to heal dysfunctional relationships?
I don't know. Uh, well, the first thing is to know that they serve a purpose. All relationships serve a purpose. And when we talk about dysfunctional, I want to be clear and define that. That means that it's not supporting you or the other people involved and being their highest and their greatest. It's just not. A dysfunctional relationship is the one that diminishes you. A dysfunctional relationship is the one that doesn't serve you, doesn't affirm you. A dysfunctional relationship is the one that doesn't honor you. So let's be clear about what a dysfunctional relationship is. Because you can have a dysfunctional relationship with food, with money, with people, with nature. Okay. So I think that's what it is. So the first thing is to understand what dysfunction is, and then to begin to recognize what is your particular dysfunction. What is the dysfunction? And then how am I participating in the dysfunction? Because you can only be responsible for you. You can only be. I have a dysfunctional relationship, or I had a dysfunctional relationship with my grandson, who suffered many things in his life, and I always made excuses for him because of the challenges and the difficulties that he had. And his behavior was just unacceptable, inappropriate, disrespectful, and unacceptable. And as long as I made excuses for him, and our relationship was dysfunctional. Until one day I was like, wait a minute, that's not going on for him right now. He's not being abandoned, abused, betrayed, neglected right now. So why is he behaving this way right now? Again, being. And so I started creating boundaries. No, you can't talk to me like that. No, you can't do that. No, I'm not going to do that. And he would get angry and speak inappropriately and behave inappropriately. And so I got to the point where I said, I love you. I want nothing but the highest and the best for you. But you can't come to my house. You are no longer welcome in my home. You're just not. And that was a no that I had to stand in. And, as a grandmother, oh my God, I'm feeding birds and saving the elephants and the whales all over the country. So to say to my grandson, you're not welcome in my home any longer. And I mean it, he's not. Until he demonstrates to me that he values, he honors, he respects my boundaries and who I am. And he's willing to behave accordingly. So I don't have a dysfunctional relationship with him anymore because I created a boundary. I stood firm in my no. And I didn't make him wrong or bad. I let him know you can't behave like that. You can't speak like that. And if you continue to do so, this will be the consequence. And he continued to do so. That's the consequence. So you've got to identify what the dysfunction is, how you participate in it, and then you have to withdraw your participation. Now, that doesn't mean that the person's going to change. I don't know if he's changed or not because he don't come to my house no more. And I'm okay with that. And you know what? I still love him. And if he were to call me today or tomorrow, if there was something that I could do for him, I would do it. But you can't come to my house. I'll meet you on the corner.
Yeah. Thanks, Iyanla. Iyanla, how to respond to the people who treat us badly?
Well, that was a good example. Strengthen up your boundaries. Strengthen up your bound. I know in India, um, where are you in India exactly?
Southern part of India, Hyderabad.
Okay, okay. I know in India, cows are very sacred.
Yes.
Yeah, cows are sacred. I have fed the cows many times in India. But in terms of a spiritual practice or principle, when it comes to people, there are no sacred cows. A cow is just a cow. And so you can't, your mother's not a sacred cow. If she's treating you badly, she's treating you badly. Your father, your siblings, your partner. There are no sacred cows. People think that, oh, this is my mother, I have to. No, you don't. Or it's my father. No, no, you don't. There are no sacred cows. If you're not being honored or respected or affirmed, if you're being torn down, abused, violent, whatever it is, you have to say no. And what that no looks like may be backing up, withdrawing for a little while, maybe creating a clear boundary, like with my grandson. I love you. You can call me. I'll do anything I can for you, but you are not welcome in my home. That's a boundary. Because you don't get to raise your voice at me, to dishonor my home, to disrespect me, to you don't get to do that. No. So it all depends on the circumstance or the situation. But your first priority is you. Once your mother stops nursing you and you can get to the bathroom and tie your shoes and spell your name, those things, you can feed yourself, wipe yourself, you know your name so you can answer for yourself, and you can move around on your own. Your first priority is you. If you don't take care of you, no one will take care of you. If you don't respect you, no one will respect you. If you don't honor you, value you, nobody will. There are no sacred cows. You can't excuse bad behavior because it's your mother or your sister or your father. You can't. You don't have to be dishonorable and disrespectful to them, but you just have to say no.
Yes, Iyanla, I still remember that you said that if we are doing something by sacrificing, we are creating
Uh
thieves.
huh. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
It's true. Again, your first priority is you. So you have this pencil, and you need this pencil to do your work so that you can get paid, so that you can eat, so that you can whatever, whatever. But along comes your baby sister and says, I need that pencil. This is your baby sister, or your son, or your grandma, whoever, and you love them and you want them to have what they need. So you give them your pencil. You sacrifice your pencil. Now you can't work, you can't get paid, you can't eat, you because you have sacrificed your pencil for your grandmother, your son, your daughter, whoever, right? So in essence what you've done is that person has stolen from you what you need to take care of yourself, and they don't even know it. All they did was ask for the pencil.
Yes.
And you gave it, you sacrificed what you needed for them. They're gone. And now you're hungry. You don't have no job. You can't do your work. You've made them a thief. And they don't even know it. So you are your first point of reference. It's your responsibility to take care of you. So you can say to your sister, your daughter, your grandma, your mother, whoever it is, I would love for you to have this pencil. But if I give you this pencil, I can't do my work, which means I won't get paid, which means I won't be able to eat. So I can't give you this pencil. Now I'll help you find your own pencil, but I can't give you this one. This one is for me. Okay. And then here's another pencil. But if you've only got one, keep it for yourself. And that's so hard for us to do,
Yes.
particularly mothers.
Yes, Iyanla. Iyanla, last question. Would you like to issue a 7-day challenge to our subscribers?
Yes, I really would. It's a very simple challenge, too. For the next 7 days, 3 times a day, for 5 minutes, spend time with you in silence. No phone, no TV, no people, no nothing. Find a place where you can just be with you. Listen. 5 minutes, 3 times a day for the next 7 days. That 5 minutes for some people is going to seem like 2 hours.
Yes.
Listen to your breath. Listen to your heartbeat. Just be with you. And for the great meditators and those people, it'll be fine. But for some of us who are so out of touch, who do everything and who's on the phone, it's going to be a challenge.
Thank you so much, Iyanla. Thank you so much for coming to the show and helping us to learn lots of things. Thank you so much.
Well, just sharing with you. Thank you for having me. And, be easy. Be easy. Be sure to subscribe to BNS Goku Great.